tonight. Now we're going to move on to Geordie's segue, which he's just thought of. So press any button, Nick, and cue up some music. I love this fucking piece. Little Walter. Fade it out. Go for it, Jord.
I want to talk about training jumps.
Oh, right. Go on. I'll put my pen down.
Bit of a serious. Well, it's not. Yeah.
Go on in. Training jumps.
Relevant to weightlifting, which this entire podcast has not been.
It fucking has been relevant to weightlifting.
Bluetooth has been the main topic of conversation.
But look how the Bluetooth affects the training.
Yeah. Right. We digress again.
Go on in. Training jumps. Go for it.
What jumps are you taking to get to your working set? And are they conscious or are they thought out? And what is the purpose of taking each jump? And how are you strategizing your warm-up lifts?
Right. Are you asking me? Because I'm going to ask a further question. Yep. What level of weightlifter are you talking about?
Talking about 3 to 5 year.
Right. Because before that, don't even worry about it.
Yeah, it's not a consideration. But once you've got to a point where you've established numbers that are somewhat relative to your capability as an athlete, what jumps are you hitting, and why are you not taking bigger jumps for the majority of...
So are you suggesting take bigger jumps?
Yes, I am. And I think that the reason why people don't take bigger jumps on the whole is because they want validation and reassurance in their warm-up. Internally.
Right, yes.
And they want to be reassured by the previous weight that they're capable of doing the next weight. When you're training X amount of times a week, it's about preserving energy as much as anything and knowing that...
Joe, come and sit here. Come on, let's bring him up. I think this is relevant for Joe.
Yeah, sure.
No, Mike, you stay there. You don't need cans. He's just fucking... you keep your cans on, Mike. Fuck him.
This is Joe Walton, by the way, everyone.
This is Joe Walton.
Say hi, Joe.
Move in.
Hello,
move
everyone.
Move in, Joe.
They won't see him.
There we are. Joe's a big man. What are you weighing, Joe?
128.
128 at 5'4". Fuck, it's a big fella. Lovely. Just taking this ball gag out. Right. Jumps. So, Jord, are you a fan of the big jump?
I am, especially on clean and jerk, where you need to take more weights in the lead up to your... Let's say that you're going for a maximum attempt. Or I suppose using a competition would be a good example of what jumps you're taking. And I'll use myself as the example in the last competition we did. If you're opening on 185, what's your pre-opener? What's the lift before that? And is the right strategy to go 20, 40, 50, 60, 70, 75, 80, 85, which I think would be the case with a lot of people, or 20, 40, 55, 70, 80 platform.
That one.
Yeah.
5 attempts to platform.
Lifts.
Right. Pause. Captain. Jumps.
I would speak for the girls. I think jump-wise, I think we're better at doing them now. We do percentages. Is that right, Megs? Yeah. We used to do comfortable jumps.
Yeah.
Which is just from earlier training. We
Speaking there, Captain.
we go in fives. So we go 35, 40, 45, 50. Whereas I think over the last couple of months we've learnt to do percentage jumps. So that would be like instead of doing 70, 75, 80, we would go 70, 76, 81.
Yeah.
So they've got bigger as we've learnt more. But before we would have just been comfortable and done more lifts. But
right.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, it does. So there's a difference between, for me anyway, the female jumping and the male jumping.
It gets smaller, doesn't it, for females? Whereas I find males just stay...
Well, so
jumps.
I think the jump is a mindset commitment for the male, whereas the female, who isn't sort of encumbered by fatigue as much, It may well be that they want more attempts so they can build fluency,
Yep.
build momentum. All these things are important. Now, bearing in mind, viewer, this is your look. What is this is not a you must take these jumps. This is what works best for you, and have you attempted to try bigger jumps?
Yeah.
Because when you get into big numbers, you can't still be taking 10-kilo jumps.
No, it's more an encouragement to explore your jumps, see what works for you. You may be a 70, 90, 110, 130, or you may be a 70, 100, 20, 40.
Yeah.
It's like, and these are considerations you have to make as an athlete.
Yeah.
Because they are extremely important.
They're very important.
And I think it's something that we perhaps underlook, or maybe if your training partners do certain jumps, you do the same jumps, and it's like Mike and I take different jumps from 70 kilos onwards. 70 is the last time that we're in line.
In line, yeah.
He goes 90, I go 100, and it changes from there on in, and it works for Mike, it works for me.
Yep.
And it's something that, we've explored taking very big jumps, like 20, 50,
Yep.
and things like that. And that was like the most amount that we could take, where the technique wasn't maybe, because you talk about fluency, like the fluidity of the movement needs to be maintained throughout the warm-up. So it's like maintaining that fluidity and building the momentum through the warm-up, but also preserving your energy and committing to the weights that you're going to hit, not needing, so I'll use an example. I now go 40, 55, 70 in my clean and jerk warm-up, whereas it used to be 40, 50, 60, 70. So I've eradicated one jump.
Yes.
But I have to mentally prepare for a 15-kilo jump and then another 15-kilo jump. And that's something that you would potentially shy away from as an athlete, because you don't want to be surprised by the weight, but it's accepting the fact that you're taking these jumps.
So we've got conservation of energy in one hand, and then we've got the fluency and momentum in the other.
Yeah.
Joe.
So I remember when Jord...
Speaking to the microphone, Joe.
So
you're on live.
I remember when Jord first tried 70, 120, 150, and it felt like I was trying to talk you back out of it, because 50 was awful. Like, it was really bad. And I think a counterpoint would be your level of fitness should allow you to at least do more reps in smaller jumps. In training, you have to be ready in a competition. Like, you might have 6 minutes between your last snatch and your opening clean and jerk at a British. And if you're not mentally prepared to go, I might have 3 or 4 lifts and need to be out. But I think it's a real training. You should be developing fitness, and that fitness should allow you to do enough lifts to mean when you get to the working weights, you're doing it with a level of fluency that's what you're trying to lift. You should be lifting like that all the time.
Michael, you have taken bigger jumps in this past sort of 12, 18 months.
Yep.
So you were a regular interval jumper, and then you started to go, I'm going to challenge myself.
Yeah, I was
10,
a fan
20.
I was quite a consistent person who liked in a warm-up of a competition, knowing exactly how it feels, should feel the same in training. But then I've had a few competitions where you've got to do some crazy stuff, and I didn't feel underprepared, but it was a surprise to the body, and stuff feels very bloody heavy when you've got to jump 20 kilos and you're not used to jumping 20 kilos. Like recently, in the past 12, 18 months, I've done a 10, 30 jump. At the time, it was like, that's crazy. That's too much. But ever since then, it's like, well, there's no reason I can't go 30, 40, and now I go 40, 50. I'm pretty sure I've done a 50, 60 jump as well.
I also think your perspective on the amount of weight that you're lifting changes the less jumps you take. So if it's 4 lifts and you're at 170 versus 4 lifts and you're at 150, your perspective on 170 changes. Subconsciously, you think 170 is more of a routine lift because you get there quicker. And it's hard to articulate why that happens, but for me anyway, it certainly feels that the fewer jumps I take and the 15-kilo jumps, you get to 170 quicker, and then you almost, because you have that level of fitness that you've built through training, you expect to be able to go, right, okay, I've taken 15 kilos, I've gone to 170, it has to be 10 kilos to 180, and then you sort of justify lifting more. And I mean, like Joe put it well, it's a real balance point of like, you need the fitness to, you don't want to be taking these jumps out of fitness, because you haven't got the fitness and capacity to take more jumps. But in the same token, I think you should, as an athlete, once fit, challenge your mind.
Okay, so let's come back a little bit. Joe, at what point, what weight do you say, my body's warm, my body's firing, now it doesn't matter? So go to clean and jerks and think about the weight that you would want to stimulate the body in order for you to then say, I can take XX platform.
Yeah, that's quite interesting actually, because I think especially when I add in a jerk, it may be due to technical aspects, but I want those more repetitions in, whereas recently I've been doing some hang cleans and I think I've done 70, 100, 130 working weight at 150, and that's felt great. There's that intent that George's talking about, that you're going because I'm getting straight up there and I'm going to work. Whereas I think if I put that over my head, there'd be some belief of, well, you need to have had practice, which may be due to the fact that I don't feel as confident in a jerk compared to the clean. But yeah, I'm trying to think of what weight that would be. To me, a 140, 160 jump would be quite a challenging one. I think that would be mentally quite
When
tough.
you put a jerk with it?
Yeah.
Right. So what you're alluding to is the perhaps discrepancy between your confidence, your surety in the clean, and bringing the jerk along with it.
Yeah.
Now, we've got two jerkers here.
That's a polite way of saying something.
So, as Mike, as a jerker, do you consider the jerk if you're taking big jumps?
No, it's going to be nailed.
No. Captain, you're a jerker. Do you consider the jerk if you take a big jump?
No.
Right.
No.
Right. So, Joe, you've heard a bridge of jerkers.
I also consider the clean, so
Right. So here we have an interesting sort of emotional, psychological connection to one part of the lift. So you've just said, I'll take a fucking 40-60 jump or whatever it was, a 30-50 jump. But I perhaps would be a bit more considered if it was a jerk. But these three relatively would say, well, I wouldn't even think about that.
and it's interesting as well because you especially see Mikey's lighter, so you expect smaller increments between his competition lifts, but George's like last two comps, you're opening very heavy on a clean and jerk, which I would be nervous about coming at the other end because I'd want lots of gaps, work my way into it, which again is possibly due to a negative mindset on that of you want to be working your way up to it, whereas actually you're happy to go, it's called going in hot, and then, which is actually a great de-risking thing, because if you take big jumps and you miss one, well, you're a bloody long way behind, whereas you have the ability to do what's needed. You're 85, okay, you missed 88, but if you'd have gone
He
started on
didn't miss
70
it. They red lighted it.
Yeah, but if you'd have been 78,
Big
and then
difference.
88,
Yeah.
that would have been a really big problem.
And I also think, just going back to the competition aspect, what weight do you expect to be clean and jerking? And if so, what jumps are justifiable for that weight? And it's, so in Mike's example, as someone who expects to clean and jerk 165 kilos, how can you not take a 10-30 jump? Because 10, 20, 30, well, you've only got 10 kilo jumps from there on in.
Yep.
And that is a lot of clean and jerks in your warm-up. And it's that, okay, well, let's build the habit of doing this 10-30 jump so it's so autonomous that you don't even think twice. It doesn't surprise you. It's not something that's asked of you at a competition. It is just something you do day in, day out. And that's where I think, ultimately it's easy to lose sight of the fact that we're all training in weightlifting to compete, and the importance of these jumps really takes place in competition.
In competition, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything is important at comp day. The way we perceive loading, the way we perceive the jumps, each perception of each lift happens on competition day. And it happens then in the context of, being confronted with your opponents and the interaction between them and the loading, the time. You train regular. You're going to train at regular intervals unless you're training with Ben Wasley. God bless you, Ben. But you're generally training at a very regular interval. Where's Ben? Is he gone? Yeah, he has gone. But you organize your training to be clickety-click, clickety-click, clickety-click. Competition is not that.
No.
It's click, let's wait a few minutes, and you'll get another click. And you have to be absolutely prepared for anything in competition. Go on, Mike.
It gives you a lot of confidence when you know you're competing against someone and you see them at the other end of the room and they're taking an 80 kilo snatch and a 90 kilo snatch. And you're like, how will you be competing with me? And they might end up at a similar sort of weight on the platform, but you think what a waste, and that is a lack of potential, and they need that validation on the way up, and you're like, well, I've already won. I've won the mental battle already, because you're seeking validation already in the back room before you've even put yourself on the platform.
Yeah, if like in your weight category, if somebody's like a 125 snatcher and they're taking 70, 80, 90, 100, like it's like
You're taking
it's
weights
70, 90.
I don't even muscle
it's
snatch.
like. Are we going to talk muscle snatch? I don't think we should. Right. Right. So we've got the jumps, and so the jumps are an important psychological preparation. They're a demonstration of fitness. And at what stage in your training are you going to take these jumps? Go on, George.
So I would say at any stage of training where you're working towards 90% lifts.
So, okay, but okay, I would differ to that. I would say it would be in the competition phase of training. Because I'm going to expose you to 90% lifts all the way through preparatory training. And it may well be that you're tired or whatever it is. You just take jumps that are preparing you for the work.
Yeah.
Right? But in comp training, when we get in the competition phase, when there's let's say there's a 75 day or an 80 day, you're going to take those jumps then.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Whereas in, 65 clean jerks, you're more about, okay, there's the training load and there's the volume I've got to do at this load, and I'm just going to sequence myself up to that load.
Yeah, plus the fact that, there's going to be a starting percentage weight or a starting weight. So on Wednesday's clean and jerk day or whatever it was, the first weight was like 55.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, I'll go 40 and then I'll go 55.
Yeah.
And that'll be that. If it was 62, I would probably go 40, 52, and then my starting weight. So it's like, but it's a plan and it's known and it's considered.
There's a point, I think, at which the weight. So, for example, there's a denominator whereby you're not in consideration. So anything under 40 isn't a consideration. You could go 125, 40.
Yeah.
You could go 120, 40. There's no consideration below a certain threshold. You're just like, okay, I feel like this today, and I've got that, so I'll just go 40, 55, or I'll go 125, 45, 55. You could options, but there's a threshold below which you just go, fuck it. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to feel my body on the day.
100 kilo clean and jerk is not going to feel anything like 150, 160.
Tell that to Meg.
Meg's asleep.
Meg's fast asleep on the fucking chaise lounge up there. Captain, I remember back in the day where we would be taking very gradual increments in your training, that has very much changed of this past, let's say, year, 18 months.
Yeah.
So there's a point at which you recognise that you must change the
Yeah.
weight. You must go 5 kilos or 10 kilos.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice taking a jump out as well. So just this last 2 weeks, I would always go 55, 58, 60, just because
On
that's
snatch.
That's
Yeah.
what I've always done. And the last 2 weeks, I've done 55, 60. So
Yeah.
the jump was actually more exciting than the 60. 'Cause
Yes.
I would never have done
Yeah.
that. So that's
Confidence.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely,
I know.
absolutely. And Joe, come back in, Joe.
That was actually my foot. But
Yeah. Joe vomited the other day, didn't you, Joe?
Didn't see that
I
coming,
don't
did
want to be cancelled. So
All right.
No
he had a
comment.
bad day. Yeah. We had a lovely night, though. We had a great night, and Joe vomited, not on my leg, Mike. Vomited outside, which I had to clean up.
that was very kind of you.
My pleasure. And in fact, me and Suki cleaned it up. There we are. Joe, so you're established now as a lifter in weightlifting. I'm saying that
That's
to you.
kind of you.
That's all right.
I don't think you've ever said that before.
Right. But now we're challenging you at loadings that I'm saying to you, right, here's the first demonstration. Let's say it's 55. And you've got open doors to get up to 60, 65, 70. And we're going to challenge your body to learn how to fucking lift. And you're going to have to adapt your jumps on the way up, depending on where you feel your body's capable of that day. Right? So these two are, right, I'm pretty efficient. I know what I want out of the session. The program's been written. There's an expectation. But yours is like fucking, I write to you something like 50, 70 or 50, 65. I write a span of lifting, which changes the way you have to calculate what's going on the way up. And you're a man of math and binariness. So what does that mean to you, Joe?
That was a long pause. It's interesting because I think at various points, if I'm feeling a bit sluggish or tired, George said to me, "No, move up. Like, do them on the heavier end. Like, they're moving fine." But having that span, like, it's nice to know that given because my capacity for strength is higher than my actual lifts.
Way higher.
Yeah. If it's there, I should be doing it because currently I'm training at loads which aren't actually giving me physical adaptation. They're just, I'm moving,
Practicing.
Exactly, it's practice.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think this week, every Monday, Wednesday and Friday I've cleaned above 160 with hang cleans or for multiple reps.
Yes.
Which
Yep.
was in the run up to various other comps has been, that would be like prep competition phase.
Yeah.
Whereas it's just felt like training. That
Yeah.
may have caught up with me today. But I've talked myself down from the cliff, so
Right. So on average, you're displaying a higher level of actually weightlifting fitness. But what we're trying to excite is your practice of the 60 to 70 range.
Yeah.
And you have to take those lifts on. Right. And in order to do that, you must be prepared to say, well, today I'm going to do this. So coming back from that, to prepare me for 70, I'm going to go 70, 65, 55, 40, for argument's sake, or whatever your jumps are. And that's a very challenging place for a lifter to be when you have a very high physical global capacity, but your refinement, shall we call it, of weightlifting practice is not matched to your global athleticism.
You're shite, mate.
yeah.
You're just shite.
I think we can boil that down into.
And on that note, let's go to crypto. Wait a second, Nick. Right.